Happy time zone, morning, afternoon, evening. I like that. Good time zone to you today. DMGeezerjim here, continuing along on my module reviews, setting reviews, previews, etc. We're going to continue along our Mystara journey today. I'm going to take a look at GAZ3, GAZ3, the Principalities of Glantri. This is the third publication in the Gazetteer series detailing out the world of Mystara. Mystara being the campaign setting that was published for your BECMI, basic expert companion, master, and immortal set. Those were all released as box sets, kind of a separate system for D&D. It was the OG, followed by Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, second edition, third edition, fourth, so on and so forth. People still play BECMI. There's actually been a modern resurgence in it. People are playing what's called OSR, which is BECMI. It is what it is. So, this is the world that's set in. Very well developed world. Sits different. Most people don't even know that it exists. It's called Mystara, and each of the gazetteers focuses on one of the geographic regions. And furthermore, as we're finding out as we go through them, not only do they focus on a geographic region, they also add elements to the gameplay, whether it was an expansion of travel rules, for example, in the Emirates of Yalarum, the second one. This was a lot of focus on caravanning, on interactions between tribal units, on desert transit and cross-country travel. There's some extra rules given there that add to the system. Necessary to play BECMI? No, but they do help flesh out. So the third one in the series is, ironically, one of the largest regions in Mystara. It's called the Principalities of Glantri. Glantri, however you want to pronounce it. It basically encompasses this area all the way up to the Three Fire Volcanoes to the northeast. You're going through the Wendarian ranges to the northwest. The entire mountain ranges to the north are claimed by the Principality. Colossus Mountains, a nice fertile valley in the middle that leads into most of the civilizations. The river leads out through the Broken Lands, and then the further... A lot of mountains, man. The Principality of Glantri has a lot of mountains in their very large realm. Why am I focused on the size of the realm? We're going to do a little bit of comparisons here first. Our first one, GAZ1, was the Grand Duchy of Karamakos. This smaller region was detailed out in the Gazetteer, giving us military forces, populations, rulership, and NPCs for almost every single location shown here. All of the towns, all of the forts, all of the Specularum, the city, all of that was detailed. And detailed relatively well. They gave us bestiaries, what kind of monsters, what kind of creatures lived in this in the ecology of it. Emirates of Yalarum did a little bit similar to that. Gave you information about the region, gave you information about the politics, a little bit more about the history of the Emirates, whereas there wasn't a whole lot of history in Karamakos. So I want to point those out early in this stream, because when you get to the Principalities of Glantri, you have this gigantic area, and very little of it is detailed out. In comparison to the other two gazetteers, this one differs dramatically. First and foremost, to understand the the product is to understand that this gazetteer was more about magic use, less about a location. Let's just kind of get that out of there. If you're familiar with Forgotten Realms, the Red Wizards of Thay, a Magocracy, a society that's driven by the most powerful magic users. We rule the country, everyone else is below us. If you want to rule the country, be better at magic than me. That's the overriding theme in Glantri. So it follows your typical gazetteers in that it gives you a little bit of a timeline. It gives you some history, the history of Glantri that will tie in with the other ones. It does follow the same calendar as far as BC before crowning, AC after crowning, according to the Emperor of Thyatis. That's your timeline. So it follows with that. The geography. This was kind of a change in the gazetteers in that this presents you the descriptive boxed text, excuse me. When you are describing the geographic features of the region, To your players, you get a little bit of guidelines along in the box text. It'll help you paraphrase the information. And in some of it, they kind of read like stories as you're kind of going through this. It's an interesting little way to handle it. I would actually say, now that in hindsight, the box text is more of a story. It's less of a description. Go ahead and you can read it to your players if you want as they explore. More, it's kind of for you to kind of, as you read the product, to progress through it through the eyes of a student on a magic carpet, straight up. So then we go from the geography and the climate, which that entire big ass region that we looked on the map is covered in a whopping 2.5, maybe 3 pages of text. The economy is a little bit more fleshed out here, to the point where it gives you the net income, the average population, all of that kind of stuff for each of the regions that are shown, each of the principalities. They tell you the area of the surface area, population. Each of these is different towns, or represent different towns or locations within the principality. The net income is the average income per month for that region for a person living in that region. So there's a lot more of a focus on economy in the initial staging of Glantri. Likewise, the Grand Army of Glantri is not very well detailed, from the simple fact that it's a bunch of magic users. You don't necessarily need to have 1,000,000 standing troops when you got 100 guys that can shoot fireballs at their fingertips, right? At least that's the thinking that goes in line with the theme of Glantri. Politics and rivalries. This is where the book gets thick. And as you start going further and further into this particular gazetteer, you realize that this isn't really written about places. This is written about people. And the Principality of Glantri is a dramatic shift in that despite the geography, despite having all of these wild ass mountains, all of these cool castles, and all of these little vales, and all this kind of stuff stuck everywhere, the focus of this adventure is on the people, on the politics of Glantri itself. Huge roster of non-player characters. If you're one of those DMs that likes to have non-player characters and likes to have a lot of them, even if you're not using Mystara, spend a couple bucks, pick this sucker up. You've got about 200 names, ranks, descriptions, politics, raison d'etre. Why do they exist? All of that stuff is given. Marauders, mages, and masters. A huge, we're looking at 38 pages, 10 entries to a page, so probably about 80 non-player characters are detailed out, ready for you to pull into your system, ready for you to read about and help you get your mind and understanding about the Principality of Glantri. It is a person-driven place. It is a people, politics, factions, and that kind of a thing. It's a magocracy. The magic users are in charge. And then you get into the guilds and brotherhoods. Several different guilds, several different brotherhoods listed, lots of factions, leaning again into the heavy political aspects of this region. The focus of this gazetteer is on politics, on people, on factions, on their interactions, and how to involve your players into that. Now, and this is actually system agnostic. This statement is system agnostic. Typically, every campaign will go through one period where it's dialogue heavy, where it's role play heavy. Sometimes you'll have campaigns that are completely role play, intrigue, political. Not very often. They're hard to run. They're hard to prepare for, mainly because there's not a lot of resources for a dungeon master or for a referee to be able to take and put something together with. You're almost stuck with inventing all of it on your own, which a creative person has no problem doing. This is a good book that will help guide you along in the realm of political intrigue and how factions interact with each other, things like that. They can give you names, they can give you places, they can give you people if you need to crib them and use them. So the next section is Glantri City. Glantri City, we're going to scroll down right quick to the enclosed maps. We'll zoom out here. Glantri City is the capital of the Principality. It sits at the conflux of 2 rivers, kind of in a lowland marsh area, just so you kind of have an understanding as we go to the actual map itself. So Glantri City in and of itself, it's got a bunch of suburbs around the outside of the walled section. This is a bunch of poster maps that you can assemble, put on the floor, and put together. But the main focus is the inner hub, the ring, as it were. The Vesubia River connects with the Isolbe River, Isuale River, and you have a bunch of canals. The city's basically Venice, as it were. So, yes, we have made a shift away from a geographic representation of an area to the briefest mention of the surrounding region and a significant focus on non-player characters, factions, and politics centered around the city of Glantri. Now, this is a well fleshed out city. It is keyed out. Each section of the city has got a little bitty map that comes within that you can key off. It's a good city. Another plus for this product is that the city, the capital city is fleshed out. The capital city is well detailed. It's playable without a whole bunch of extra prep. As long as you're reading and looking at the information and paying attention to the key, you can navigate a party through a well-populated, well-established city and have the resources on hand to run it well. The kind of a change. The first two, they described like Sepulchrum City, Sepulcher? Specularum, excuse me, was the first large city that was described over here in the Grand Duchy. Map was given for it, some NPCs, some rosters, some information, but nowhere near the detail of what we're getting for Glantri. Same with over here, Yalarum, there's a little bit of stuff given. But this product seems to be a major shift into focusing on an urban area. Whether you want to transport this urban area into something else or use it where it's listed, that's your prerogative as a dungeon master. Content is good. Information is good. The layout of the city makes sense. It's kind of nice to have this whole navigable, waterway-driven city. I like the idea of having, a little Venetian-style canal transit system. So, yeah, continues on, and then you get into a large section of living in Glantri City. So, as you're saying, this is more of a shift into an urban environment, an urban encounter area, a city-centered, a metropolis-centered campaign. Up to this point in Beckme, that was honestly in the hands of a player, or of the play group, of the DM, to really flesh out and design and enforce a city. Through your modules, you went into towns, you went out of towns, you adventured in towns, but you never really lived in a city prior to, if you choose to adopt this product for Mystara. Gives you all kinds of cool stuff along the calendar, festivals, holidays, due dates, taxes, seasonal changes, all of that kind of thing, that sort of information. Different events, things like that. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because I've kind of glossed over a little bit up to this point, more talking about how Glantri is a Magocracy. The product does a little bit of a mention of the surrounding region. Primary focus on people and factions, and the city of Glantri. Now, the Great School of Magic is truly the center point of the Gazetteer. The idea that Glantri is the center of magic in Mystara. Any wizard worth their salt is going to make a trip to the Great School of Magic and go there to learn, research, contribute something. So there's a bunch of stuff that's detailed in the Great School of Magic as a place, but not a whole lot considering the importance of it to you as a DM to run things out. You have some rules for running magical duels. You have some events that are going on. The Great School of Magic. Now, here's one cool thing that was given. Is there's a system now in place for Mystara, for Beckme, to create spells and magical items, to research spells, to create magical items, to enchant items. There's a cost association with everything, whether it be gold piece and time. There's the same thing existing in 5th edition. 5th edition is about a third of the percentile in both cost and time. I prefer the older system. I'm a low magic kind of a guy. I'm the idea of if everyone's got money and potions of healing are so cheap, why is everyone getting sick? Why is anyone dying? If you can get a resurrection for free, then why is anyone in the fucking country dead? That's a theme thing for you. Decide on your own. That I'm not here to tell you how to run your world. This is designed around a low magic world, i.e. not everyone has a magic weapon, not everyone's got 3 potions, and you can't go to the corner store to buy Black Razor. It is what it is. Mystara is giving you a system and a rule set to actually be able to build, enchant, and create magic items as a wizard, including the cost in gold and the cost in time. Your mileage may vary with this system, this chart. I love it. I really enjoy having the extra resources. My groups don't like it. Have yet to really to implement a hardcore, super expensive way to do it. You know, we'll grow to that. But as always, it's nice to have the information. It's nice to have the content. If it's something you take and modify, it's something you take wholesale and use, it's something you throw away. At least you had access to it to begin with, whether it's inspiration or what not to do. It's nice to have extra content. It's nice to have the extra information to guide you. So you go from there into the 7 secret crafts of Glantri. We're going further into magic use for Mystara. Mystara, there's magic, just like regular D&D, but this is adding extra layers to it as far as alchemists, dracologists, elementalists, illusionists, necromancers, cryptomancers, witches. Now, if you're a 5th edition person, you're going, well, that just sounds like schools of magic. You're right. There weren't definitive schools and colleges of magic in BECME. You were a magic user, or you were a cleric, or you were an elf. Those were the 3 people that used magic. And you either used magic user spells or cleric spells. That was the simplicity, and still is the simplicity, of BECME and OSR. So this book, the Gazetteer, broke it down and started adding more nuance to magic, adding if you wanted to be an elementalist and specialize in elemental magic, then you went through these extra steps. You learned some extra spells, and you were able to do certain things. A master of water, a master of fire, things like that. Codified into rules for Mystara. So it was a good big thing. It's a nice addition to the world of Mystara. For those of us that are playing 5th edition, not a lot useful here unless you want to wholesale change and adapt. Now, I am going to rewind that here in a little bit once I get done with the actual product review. The adventures in Glantri are a little thicker than your previous Gazetteers. The previous Gazetteers might have given you, I think, maybe 8 or 10 hooks scattered across 4 level brackets in GAZ1. I think there was 10, no, not man, 5 or 6 relatively well written and laid out ones in GAZ2. Here we're sitting here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Are we all going to go all the way down to U? I guess we're ending at U. So yeah, 19 different adventures that are set in Glantri, whether it's the city or the region proper. You have your descriptive box text, your adventure levels, the topics. They're all in reference to things that are in this book. So that's one of the pluses of the GAZ3, and honestly most of the Gazetteer series. They make reference to themselves. It's not like you have to have all 8 books to run one of the adventures that they list in GAZ3. GAZ3 is not going to reference GAZ7. Please see this to run this module. So that's a nice thing. It's every publication is self-enclosed. You only need what you have or what in hand to run what you want to run. Everything else is just additional. That's a good thing. That's a plus thing. Almost all of the adventures are RP centric: dialogue, investigation, stealth, stealing, framing somebody for something, finding out what they're up to, sneaking into a masquerade, so on and so forth. They're all very RP heavy adventures. So if you're not used to running those, or if you're looking for inspiration for some of those, this product might fit that bill for you as well. Obviously, you got a couple dungeons that are given, a couple new critters, an imp. Imps did not exist in BECME before GAZ3. Go figure. Something as iconic as a little imp didn't make its publication until now. And then you have this little opinions and views. This is just a little short story vignette that kind of adds flavor and context to life in the region. There's a lot of that in this book. Let's go ahead and head back up to the top of it here and just kind of do a summation before I do some 5th edition adaptation ideas. So Lots of stuff about non-player characters, some stuff about economy, lots of stuff about factions, a lot of information about magic, schools of magic, the use of magic, um, com- uh, contained in this book. So it's useful for BECME players that want to expand their magical universe. It's useful for Mystara people that need to fill in that big ass section in the middle of the map. Um, Now, this is a little bit of a stretch, but this is an example. The next 15-20 minutes I'm going to talk about, this is an ideal example of how to adapt content. If you're a 5th edition person out there, there's this cool thing that came out last year called Strixhaven, a curriculum of chaos. It is a magical school. It is a university of magic. And let's be honest, it is a Magic the Gathering property that has been translated into Dungeons and Dragons terms. Perfectly fine. There's a lot of, between MTG and D&D, the content's great. They work really well with each other. So, oh shit, what? Tina Turner died? No, I'm sorry guys. I'm recording. I just got a text. That's, damn. But anyway, apologies for that interruption during the recording. Strixhaven, big ass college centered in the Magic the Gathering universe, designed as a location campaign setting for, get mad at me if you want, a Harry Potter-esque D&D scenario. Let's go Hogwarts circa D&D. So why am I talking about that right now? Well, because we're looking at Glantri, which is a region that is a Magocracy. It's completely centered in magic. Everyone that lives here is either an aspiring mage, a retired mage, or someone in the service of magic users, in the service of wizardry. And it's the home to the Great School of Magic, the center of magical learning in all of Mystara, the center of magical learning in Glantri. Kind of sounds like Strixhaven, doesn't it? Amazingly, you have your different secrets of Glantri, the 7 secret crafts of Glantri. That could become the 4 dips, the 4 or the 5 college. I think it's 4 or 5 colleges. I'm gonna disclaimer here. I've thumbed through Strixhaven. One of the guys that's in my play group was planning on running it. He was going to DM it, so I wanted to honor the process and not go spoiler on it. So some of the numbers might be off because I don't know the book that well. But I do know it well enough for one thing. I know about it from the, let me rephrase that. A lot of the feedback I've heard about it is it's a neat concept, it's a neat location, but it's very incomplete. It feels like you've been given this college and all kinds of cool stuff, but nothing to do with it. Guess what? We just found something to do with it. You drop Strixhaven into Glantri as is. Doesn't matter your world, does it? Because we're already talking magic here. You got on, Harry Potter got on a magic train, ran through a stone column to get on a magic train to go through the magic world to the magic place of Hogwarts. Why does it matter where the College of Strixhaven is located? Maybe you located in Glantri. Maybe the School of Magic is Strixhaven now. The Great School of Magic is not the Great School of Magic. It is now Strixhaven. So lo and behold, we've taken a 5th edition location in a source book that has a lot of potential, but not a lot of... There's a lot of stuff here. There's nothing outside of it. So now we've taken a lot of stuff that's on the outside and dropped this thing that had nothing around the outside into an area that has the outside. We've taken a well-developed school and placed it in a magical community, Glantri, a Magocracy, as it were. So whether your players are getting to Strixhaven magically or whether they grew up in Mystara, you have a location and a setting for Strixhaven to fit into, and it dovetails into it perfectly. You have an entire roster of adults that live outside of it. There's a lot of tweaking that you have to do for 5th edition, obviously. You're going to have to remake almost all the NPC cards because BECME works a little bit different, but that's not a stretch. That's not a big deal. You're looking for names. Viriana the Fourth, Prince Jarek. He belongs to the Prince Jarek of the Viriana the Fourth clan. 27th level magic user. Strength of 12, Intelligence 17, Wisdom 16, Dexterity 15, Constitution 10, Charisma 16, Neutral. He's the Khan of Singabad. Magic user 27. Jarek Vinyara is the fourth ruler of Kandahar, the supreme judge and council of the Khan of Singabad. He's a very civilized man. Blah 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 blah. You have all the people that you need to populate the area in Glantri given in this book. You have plenty of information for the city proper given in this book. Now all of a sudden Strixhaven has a city that's supporting it. It has a government that supports it. It has an entire society that is built around the supporting and empowerment of a magical school. The center of the Principalities of Glantri is the Great School of Magic. The sole existence of Strixhaven is to be a school of magic. If you're asking my opinion as a dungeon master who loves to take content and make it into other stuff, make it their own, and combine it, this is a match made in heaven. Principalities of Glantri needs this Great School of Magic. It exists as it, but it's not very fleshed out. So, hey man, throw that sucker away, drop Strixhaven in as it is, as it's written. It will work perfectly fine within Glantri. You'll have to change some of the Glantri stuff to match 5th edition, or maybe you don't. Maybe this School of Magic is where it's at because of it can function where it's at, and the world is a little bit different. And to go back to Forgotten Realms, they got to take their home portal through Strixhaven. To go back to Eberron, well, they can't go back to Eberron because Eberron's disconnected from the Cosmic Wheel. Piss off, Eberron, you did that to yourself. Point being, whatever your setting is, you can then connect it to Strixhaven through magical portals, and then they can go outside of Strixhaven into the city of Glantri and a complete region and world that's designed to support that kind of gameplay. Boom. This is a perfect example of taking two pieces of content that weren't even in the same system. You have a Beckme versus a 5th edition. You have Mystara that most people don't even know exists. You mentioned the Principalities of Glantri. Most D&D players' eyes will glaze over going, what are you talking about? And then you have Strixhaven, which a lot of people have heard about, but no one touches. It's a match made in heaven. And all it is taking two pieces of content, spending some time reading them, and going, you know what? You know what would work here? Boom. And you've done that, and I've done that. Just in the last 15 minutes, we figured out how to place Strixhaven, a mysterious yet really cool campaign starting point, into a campaign setting that actually supports it. Y'all, as I've said a bunch of times in my module series, there's no such thing as bad content. There's badly written content. There's badly presented content. And even bad content is good content in the fact that it's showing you what not to do. It's steering you away from other things. But in situations like this, a forgotten piece of lore, a forgotten product from back in the day in a world that no one plays in a system long forgotten, is the perfect home for Strixhaven. Cool as hell, man. And that's one of the beauties of Dungeons and Dragons, you guys. We have, it's like you dump out a toy box, it's Legos. D&D is Legos, man. Not in the essence that we can take all of these different little parts and build whatever we want and make them work for what we need to do at that time. There's no one that's going to come to my house tomorrow and say, hey, we heard you're running Strixhaven in Mystara. You know you're not supposed to do that. There's no D&D police out there, guys. Nothing. If it works for me, if it works for my play group, then that's genius. That's a wonderful thing. So don't be afraid of getting some of this older content going into Mystara. And I've said that so far a couple times in the series. If you're looking for a new campaign world, if you're looking for a new setting for your group, take a look at Mystara. The world is it's an old school hex style. It's got kind of a unique charm and art style to the world. Yet it's a pretty busy place. It's not huge. Each of these hexes is 24 miles, so you're not covering a ton of ground from one side of the world to the other side. It's not like it's going to take them 10 months to go from the Soderfjord Jarldoms over to the Five Shires. 5 Shires, yeah. Halflings, go figure. As you look at this map, this is super duper steeped in your fantasy tropes. You have elf lands, the kingdom of Elfheim, go figure. The Five Shires, the Artrugian clans, which kind of covers your Native American Plains tribe type stuff. The Darkonan Republic. This is all just freaking dwarfs. Where's Rockholm? Rockholm. Dwarfs. Dwarf lands here. Dwarfs and gnomes live up in here. You can get into the kingdom of Vestland. Kingdom of Ostland, you're dealing with Norwegian and Celtic English mythology and stuff there. The Ethgar and Connaughts and the Heldonic territories, you're dealing with a little bit more of your, I don't want to say hornlands, steppe lands. Mongol tribes, Hun tribes, that kind of a migrationary type thing there. And obviously the Wildlands is completely untouched and wild and crazy and all kinds of shit to go fight up in there. So on and so forth. So Mystara is a great place to take a look at if you're looking for something fresh, or if you're just looking for inspiration. If you're just a history and lore nerd, which you must be because you've been watching my series, and I thank you so much for that. It's another place to dig in, to pull some content out of, to fish some stuff out, and to have some fun with. But yeah, the GAZ3 series in total, let's take a look right quick, is 14 deep. I've got 14 of the gazetteers. I think there might be 17 total. I could be wrong. But we're going to take a in-depth look at each one of them in comparison to themselves, in comparison to the world, and how do they work for 5th edition. Principalities of Glantri on its own, as its own, is going to take some work for 5th edition. If you're wanting to use this region for adventure, you're kind of SOL. You're going to have to do, plus as you get to do a lot of inventing. This entire mountain range could be filled with thousands of failed released summons and failed experiments that the wizards just let go and they just roam the land freely. This could be a crazy area to fight in. It could be a very tame area. The module itself does not focus on anything regional. It focuses on the people. It focuses on the faction. It focuses on systems of magic, and it focuses on the city of Glantri. So, it's a world, it's a region needing to be fleshed out as a product, but it's a really cool product in the sense that it gives you an urban encounter base. It gives you guidance to work within factions, to work within a land full of intrigue. There's no government here. The leader is the most powerful wizard and the magic user, and those that support this guy. And if half of these people decide to support the other guy, then next week that guy's going to be the leader. It's borderline chaos. It's borderline anarchy. Power to the most powerful only. So, you know, there's a huge level of intrigue that goes along with that. You don't know if the guy that you're hanging out with right now is still going to be in charge next week. Things like that you need to account, that you can account for, that you can add power dynamics and intrigue to your players. Now, leaning back into it again, the focus point of this, and I'm going to go back on one thing that I did say earlier. Most of your books, most of your gazetteers are self-contained, as in everything that I need for Gazetteer 3 is here. There are mentions of other places. There are mentions of other regions. And the Great School of Magic has been mentioned in GAZ1 and GAZ2. So it's something that's known throughout Mystara. So that's why I'm submitting that if you want to run Mystara as is, run it as is. If you're looking for something, if you're sitting there with Strixhaven and you don't know what to do with it, the Principalities of Glantri is sitting here waiting. Take a look at this product. Take a look at Strixhaven and see how it's like a match made in heaven. If you don't mind doing the work to make the changes from BECMI to 5th edition. That is the caveat. There are some things that you'll have to tweak, and there are some things you'll have to adjust to make Strixhaven work within Glantri, but it's there. It's screaming. And like at the risk of repeating myself, it's a perfect example of how easily we can take content from different eras, from different editions, from different settings, and combine them and make them into even better creations. Glantri on its own is interesting. Strixhaven on its own is interesting. Taking Glantri and Strixhaven together. Did you try to call me? Did you try to call me? No. Okay. I thought you needed a text. I'm sorry. I'm recording. My bad. Sorry, my kid just walked in. But the Principal of Glantri and the curriculum of Strixhaven are a match made in heaven that until you took the time to read it and look at it, you never would have thought. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and close this video out. Glantri is a cool product. For a Mystara campaign, it adds a lot to your magic. For an urban and political campaign, it adds a lot of content and information to help you build that. As a setting location on its own, it's very urban-centered, but it covers that. More than anything, this is just waiting and begging to be combined with other stuff. Take a look at Strixhaven. Take a look at Glantri. Sit them down together next to each other. Rub your chin once or twice, and I guarantee you've got a brand new adventure setting ready to go, and you're gonna have no issue with getting people interested in playing in it. You know, Harry Potter school actually placed in a magical kingdom full of monsters. Fucking let's do it. You know, so never be afraid of combining. Never be afraid of taking old content. Trust your imagination. Have fun with it. There's no one's going to come around banging on your door criticizing you for combining stuff. No one, and if someone on the internet says you did what? Who cares? There's some anonymous fool on the internet. If you could make it work for you and your group and have fun, you want it D&D. If you can take two separate pieces of context from 30 separated by 25 years of publication time and 5 editions and make them work together, you want it done during mastering. Who cares? But hey, this is DMGeezerjim here. Wanting to go ahead and close out my video saying thank you again for joining me. Appreciate your time, whether it's just for a few minutes, whether it's for the full session. I greatly appreciate your time. Love to have you subscribe, like, and follow. Share the video. Share the channel with some of you if you have some other D&D geek friends. Spread it around a little bit. If you want to catch me live, I'm on Twitch every day from 11 till 1, just chatting D&D. We usually have 5 or 6 people drop in, and you know, we have some nice, fun, open forum chats. I try to focus on some content, but you know, we talk about what we're going to talk about. If you need any maps, I've got a large library over on Etsy. I have a Patreon page that has some DM aids as well as additional virtual tabletop and printable maps. I'd love to see to get some support over there. If you want to subscribe and help us long term on Patreon, you can help us there too. But above all else, thank you for your time, thank you for your support, and I hope you enjoyed the video.